look back in my career, the times where I've kind of had the courage to say, I think it's time for something else, and I've taken a risk, it's always paid off. My name's Beth Gohl-Greenaway. I studied a Masters in Dress and Textile Histories at Glasgow University, and now I'm the Strategy Director at BBC, which stands for Value-Based Consulting. So in my role, I help companies put people and planet at the heart of their business. I've spent most of my career trying to drive positive impact, and I feel like we're kind of at a point now where incremental change isn't really enough anymore. So what I'm really trying to achieve in my role is to help businesses transform and support this new type of business in a regenerative and distributive economy. So I'm British, I'm from England originally. I studied English and German for my bachelor's, and so I moved to Berlin as part of my year abroad, which was a really foundational experience. Like, it's only enriched my experience and my career, having been abroad, having worked abroad. I think my whole career has been kind of full of diversions and different steps that I didn't expect. I started out wanting to be a costume designer, which is originally why I studied that Masters at Glasgow. And then shortly realised that that was really difficult to get into, and ended up in buying and merchandising on a graduate programme at TK Maxx. And while I was there, I realised the negative impact of the fashion industry. I always loved the artistic, kind of creative side of fashion, hence the kind of the costume design intro at the start. But I think when I got started in the industry, I then realised that it was really very business driven, and it was really about selling. And I think that's fine, but when that's kind of the only goal, I just started questioning kind of, isn't there more to this? So from quite early on in my career, I was just questioning this idea of endless growth, which we know is actually not possible on a finite planet. And just this idea that we have to have more and more things all the time to be happy. So that's when I moved into sustainability. And at the same time, around that time, it was the Rana Plaza disaster in Bangladesh, and that's when about 1,000 people lost their lives in a big factory collapse. So yeah, I was having these thoughts by myself, and then externally, obviously, things were happening, and it just made me realise, like, I need to improve this and make a change. So I think in sustainability, you need to be learning all the time. There's constantly new updates coming up, new science that you need to engage with. You have to be this jack of all trades and work with a lot of different departments, whether that's, you know, the business departments, buying, marketing, operations, but also really understand, especially in fashion, where are things coming from, what do the global supply chains look like, how are things made. I also think you need to be a solution finder, so you have to have this kind of intrinsic perspective or motivation that what you're doing is the right thing, and just try and find ways to make that work. And if the first thing doesn't work, then try something else, try the next thing, try a different department, try a different contact. You then need to be a good communicator. You know, you think, oh, well, I'm just telling people the facts and then they should do things, and that's not generally how people act. There generally needs to be a benefit for them, or kind of a win-win, or you have to show them that you're making their job and their life easier. So I think all of the general skills that you learn in a bachelor's or a master's degree are really important. So how do you conduct research? How do you learn? How do you structure your thoughts? How do you make an argument? And also I think from living in a big city, from a purely practical perspective, for me, doing my master's, that was the first time. I didn't have government support. I had to have a part-time job, and I was doing that alongside studying. So I think it was the first time really in my life that I was very much by myself, out on my own. And I think that also pushes you to be more proactive, to be more independent. You have to kind of make it work yourself. I think it can be a bit overwhelming and a bit scary thinking about, oh, what do I do now with my career? And I think I definitely felt a pressure to kind of get a job as soon as possible, and felt a bit guilty that it took me a few months to do that. And looking back at my 20s, I just feel like that was really the time where I could explore and try new things, and it's really like a decade of finding yourself. From a sustainability perspective, then that becomes, where do you want to work? Where do you want to put your time? How do you want to contribute towards a better future? And there's so much you could do. That could be in a traditional brand, absolutely doesn't have to be. Whether it's some of these more, innovative digital solutions that are coming out, if you're looking at some of the apps, looking at rental, second-hand. Interesting stat is that second-hand, for example, is now overtaken fast fashion in terms of market share. So there's some big shifts happening. And I think for new grads coming into the field, they're kind of at this intersection of kind of the old is starting to kind of die off and the new is coming. Like, we have such power in this new generation coming through that is going to decide if some companies are successful or not, because some companies won't be able to hire people. Yeah, if this is the generation, it's going to really shape what companies are doing in the next 10 years.